So 4:55 a.m. 6th of March, March 6th, 2016. Sitting here in our unit, and I'm talking about the Anglican Church, the Anglicans, as I call them, Anglican, because they're so tribal and they're so clan-like, and I think it's repulsive. I'm going to talk about that again, but in another video. That's a good topic for a video, how they are tribal and gang-like. They're more like mafia. Well, they're worse than mafia. They're criminals that are protected by the government and by politicians and by bankers, which makes them worse. They're the worst kind of criminal because they hide behind God. They hide behind Jesus. So today I'm going to talk about, that's another topic for another time. Today I'm going to talk about Anglicans. Anglicans don't have loose ends. They tie up all their loose ends. That's exactly why monitoring conversations, monitoring computer use, monitoring communications is such a high priority for the Anglican Church, and also the Australian government, since they have such a close relationship. They can say whatever they want, but they have a close relationship. The government of Australia uses religion to rally public opinion, and I'll talk about that in another video. A perfect example is Premier Baird of New South Wales. He's an Anglican, serious Anglican. And there's people in this building, a guy in this building that actually was a student minister at the same church as Premier Baird. So how do the Anglicans, okay, let's get on with it. How do the Anglicans tie up loose ends? Well, here's an example. When I first moved here, I made comments about one of the students. He was a bully and loudmouth, obnoxious, real sporty guy. Spent more time running around in the mornings than he did studying, I think. And in my opinion, just rude, obnoxious, toxic person. And the worst thing about him is that he influenced all the students around him. He pumped him up. He got him in a frenzy. It seemed like everybody was influenced by his behavior, and everybody lost their minds around him, like a mob mentality. They all became little children in a sandbox. It was crazy. You ever watch little kids fighting over candy? When he was around, that's what they were like. They were doing all. I swear. I'm sure that they would do anything that he asked. He had everybody fooled. I didn't trust the guy for 1 second, but he had everybody fooled. So we had an altercation when he first came here. And I asked him, what are you doing that for? I said, what are you trying to look good for the church? He was doing something with his unit. He was for free, fixing the backyard of his unit for free, and he's supposed to be a student. Well, obviously he has money, right? How can you lay a whole bunch of bricks, a 3-meter square pad of bricks out of your own pocket? And his father went and bought a trailer just for the occasion, an actual trailer where they hauled all the bricks here just for the occasion. So you're telling me that you're a student and you've got so many kids, he had quite a few kids and a wife, and you're a student at Bible college and you've got all this money to blow. Well, whatever. The problem is it causes a frenzy. I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I'm not going to mention too much about it in the video here, but I'm sure you can kind of figure it out. It causes frenzy and unhealthy competition in the rest of the students, and they got to amp up their game to compete. So then Buddy next door, who's a computer guy, has to amp up his game to compete with Buddy that's over in the backyard putting in a new pad, because he's got to look good for the church too, right? So then he amps up his game, and then he goes and rapes the crap out of our computer so that he can look good for the Anglican property manager who wants us to leave so that he can buy this unit. Oh, yeah. Don't tell me that that's not what they were doing, because it's exactly what they were doing the entire time that we were here, harassing us and motivating us to move to another location. I even went to the cop one time, and the cop said to me, well, why don't you just move? Why don't you just move? Oh, right. So the next person who moved, so the owner of the unit, after we move, the owner of the unit might not sell, and then they might put it up for rent. And then the next person who moves in here might be a single woman or an unstable person that can't handle all this freakish pressure. These people are supposed to be Christians, and yet they prey on the unstable. They prey on the weak. They prey on the people that can't handle things, that get stressed out and have, difficulties with stress in social situations, they prey on that. They thrive on it, and they love it, and they love, like little beasts with their fangs hanging out and their bloody nails and their bloody teeth. They love it. They get the taste of blood, and they want more. They dig their claws in more, they harass more, they bother you more, they push more, they ping more, they tap on the walls more, they get their friends to bother more, anything they can do. And then they go, we're not doing nothing. We're not doing nothing. Oh, but you know deep down inside that they're being passive aggressive, and that's their intention. Yeah, so this is an addition I added later to the video because it was getting too long, so I chopped it up in half. So this will be the end of part one. So essentially, they use manipulations, and they use teamwork from one. If an argument is made against one, they'll fabricate or manipulate a story or a situation, and then they'll get other people to involve themselves in that fabrication to cover up. I'll give you an example in part two. But if they find an argument, I'll reiterate, if they find an argument that someone says against their behavior or against their establishment, what they do is they find out what that argument is. That's reconnaissance and monitoring computer and communications activity, and even ordinary everyday conversations that you can hear standing outside the unit. Once they have the information, then they can fabricate a way, and they do. They fabricate a way to cover up that original argument, that original criticism, and they back it up with other future activities. So if one person was criticized for something, then they create a false situation, a synthetic situation, where they'll say, see, we do it all the time, when in fact, if you look at the history previous to that, there was no activity at all. It was an activity that began after that, and they try to make it look like it was the behavior all along, but it wasn't. So we see these behaviors, how they're toxic, and how they are used to cover up, to tie up loose ends. We also see a very important trait is that their fangs come out, and when they're supposed to be caring for people who are unstable and people who are in trouble, they don't. They take advantage of that, and they target, and they hit it, and they hit it hard. And when they smell blood and taste blood, they hit it even harder. When they have a goal in mind, the teachings of Christ are secondary. When there's an end goal in mind that they justify with their ethics and with their social rhetoric and dogma, that's good for the church. Ooh, it's good for the future of Australia. It's good. It's right, mate. It's good for the church. It's good for the future of Australia. Well, if they hit something like that, then forget about everything that Jesus said. That's secondary, and that comes after. We'll kind of fudge that into our post cleanup. So in part two, I'm going to talk about a situation. There's many situations that I've witnessed, but I'm going to talk about a situation, a specific situation where they do tie up loose ends by manipulating future, or by manipulating the behaviors to cover up the behaviors of the past. Doesn't make much sense, but I'll try to explain it in the next video.